In a 60 Minutes interview that aired last night, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi was asked a pretty pointed question about why she is not mentoring younger members. Let's take a listen to her response.
Why haven't you brought young people into the leadership?
Because we have. You perhaps don't know.
Why does AOC complain that you have not been grooming younger people for leadership?
I don't know. You'll have to ask her. Because we are.
That was kind of sharp, kind of dismissing her.
I'm not dismissing her. I respect her. I think she's very effective, as are many other members in our caucus that the press doesn't pay attention to. But they are there, and they are building support for what comes next.
Things get a little testy there. Back to talk about it, Democratic strategist Colin Rogero and the Hill National Political Reporter Jonathan Easley. Great to see you guys. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having us.
Hey,
Absolutely.
thank you.
Colin, all right, let me start with you, man. I do think AOC has a point, given, I think, what is the average mean leadership age there?
It's 71 for Democrats and 53 for Republicans. Major party difference.
I guess, wow, congrats to the Republicans there. What do you think about this entire thing, Colin? The dismissiveness and that attitude seems to be part of the biggest problem that there's always been, or with Pelosi at the helm, and not really wanting to hear the concerns of a lot of younger members.
Yeah, I think, look, there's a saying, amongst people who work in Democratic politics that, the face of the party and the appearance of the party is not that we have a party, but that we have a retirement community. So it's a major problem in terms of the party's front-facing, presentation to a majority of the voters. And I think there's two different things in that interview that were discussed that aren't really what we need to be focusing on. Leadership inside of Congress is one thing, but the voting public doesn't understand most of the time leadership in Congress and different committees and things like that. What we need to be grooming is other people who are the face of the party that really represent the diversity, the youth, and the energy of the Democratic Party. Many really powerful women of color, very captivating with wonderful stories, have been elected beyond just AOC. And those people need to be trained and need to be put out in the forefront and need to be the new face of the Democratic Party. It can't just always be Nancy Pelosi, regardless of her leadership position. We have to be showing who the Democratic Party really is. And we're not doing a good job of that right now.
Yeah. I mean, Jonathan, why is it that Republicans have done a better job of this than Democrats? It looks very much like they have this. Their leadership just gets a lock-on power and stays there forever and doesn't open it up even a crack. So you also see a lot of younger members, moving out of the House, going to, the Senate or running for state offices because there's just no way to rise up within the House caucus on the Democratic side.
Yeah, that's right. Why is that happening more among Republicans? Trump disrupted everything on the right, which might have sort of facilitated, part of that change. I think, maybe check me on this. I think Pelosi has been the Democratic leader for 15 years or more now, in a row, 17 years even. So we just haven't seen that same dynamic on the left. And to AOC's point, she said that, these young lawmakers that feel like they've been sort of sidelined, they do find other things to do, or they end up losing primaries, as Joe Crowley did. He was a potential speaker in waiting, and AOC defeated him. Chris Van Hollen was also seen as someone that might take that role at some point, and he moved up to the Senate. So, there is a very real gripe here, as Leslie Stahl rightly, pointed out, with the three top Democrats in the House, all 80 years old. And Chuck Schumer is young by comparison. He's only 70. So
spring chicken.
It's a very a real dynamic. And at some point, we think this is Pelosi's last term as Speaker. And at some point, you could see a pretty dramatic shakeup. Obviously, Hakeem Jeffries, I think, is 15 years old and would be seen maybe as potentially the next favored Democrats to be the Speaker. We'd have to see how that plays out. But certainly there is a generation of Democrats in waiting, and they've been waiting a long time.
Yeah, they've been waiting forever, Colin. That's the question, right? Which is that if they're just going to usher in somebody 15 years younger than Pelosi, that's still pretty old. That's old, right? We're talking here about people who are in their 30s and others. Are they just supposed to wait forever? And I guess the real question is that dismissiveness, it seems to me that is going to be an inherited trait amongst whoever the next speaker is, because you can see there she's like, well, many of our other members, don't get as much press. There seems to be a lot of anger from her that she even has to answer questions like this. And that seems like a very establishment priority that is going to remain the case for some time to come. That's oh, sorry, that was to Colin. But you can both take it. I don't really care.
Yeah. So look, I think her leadership tenure is done after probably this Congress. And 15 years, 20 years younger is not really the point. The point is that the Democratic Party has to have a face that looks like what it is, which is more representative of the face of America. I think the Republicans planned out where they are with the average age a long time ago, and the Democrats have not done that because a lot of the Democrats have just continually held on to their seats. I think during the Obama years, you had a group of the young voters who were specifically, kind of targeted with the Obama campaign and were very receptive to it. I think the Republican Party looked at that and said, oh, we have to have some kind of answer for that, and actively recruited, promoted, and put younger members in leadership positions and put them at the forefront of the party. The Democratic Party's got to have an answer for that. And I think we will. It's just going to take some time, and the leadership structure has to change.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I care about this is because I think the politics of the current Democratic leadership is terrible. It's not so much their age that I really object to be perfectly honest with you. But Jonathan, to me, the most interesting part of this whole clip was like the tone and the sort of manifest contempt, number one, that she has to getting pressed at all. And number two, the sneering reference to AOC, I think is also really interesting here.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the context is it was only a week ago where AOC gave that interview to The Intercept, calling on new Democratic leadership. I mean, we knew the tension was there. You thought perhaps the speaker might have been able to sort of stifle her contempt a little bit better in an interview with 60 Minutes, but I mean, it just shows she gets asked a lot about AOC and these things AOC says and AOC's complaints. About Democratic leadership, which are many, and so she's frustrated about it. It was also interesting, though, like you said, that she brought up the fact that there are many other Democratic lawmakers doing good work that don't get the same press that AOC gets, and part of that it displays the left's power and their ability to command press attention, their presence on social media. It gives them a lot of political power and a lot more than they have right now in the House. And so it seems on some level that is irking the speaker. And I mean, look, the writing's on the wall. We've seen in these last few elections sort of the insurgency sort of take hold. Lawmakers like Joe Crowley, Eliot Engel getting ousted in these primaries. It's setting the stage for a pretty dramatic shakeup in leadership, likely not to happen this Congress, but potentially in the next one.
Everyone should just take note because they all just voted for AOC and Squad. They all just voted for Pelosi to be Speaker again, and this is still how she views them, by the way. Gentlemen, great to see both of you. Thank you.
Thank you, gents.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Coming up, journalist Zed Jelani is going to talk about what the path towards a less radical political climate might actually look like. That's when Rising returns.